Hello, this is Ken Ferrie with this week's Boots in the Field report. Most places received a welcome rain, especially here local. That's really going to help, especially in the dry areas. This will slow down the field fires and maybe help with the fall tillage. I'm going to start this podcast with a crop report. Last weekend, I traveled to northeast Iowa for a wedding. Lots of fields are harvested up there. Got to ride a few rounds in the combine. In that corn, you could see large areas of the light ground where that corn has been dead since July. It's black in color and short, but then the low ground would have some green color in it, and those yields would swing up to 250 bushel and then back down to below 100. There's a black cloud in the air around the combine. That black, kind of almost soot-looking dust coming out of the combine. When you went down the ladder, your hands are just covered with it. Again, from that corn being dead so long. Talked with growers in that area, and beans are running in the 30 to 50 bushel range. Kind of like everywhere else, you just go a few miles and find some rain, and the yields bounce back pretty strong. And there ain't that many miles between the haves and the have-nots in most places. The guys down there in Rhinebeck, Iowa, have been hitting it hard. They're about 50% done with beans. They thought 45% on the corn. Corn yields range in that 220 to 275 range. Early corn in that 230 range. Later planted, later maturing hybrids are bumping the 275, especially those that were sprayed twice for tar spot. They tried to do some fall chiseling there, but the ground is just too hard. And they are dealing with some field fires in that area due to how dry it is. Unfortunately, they didn't receive any of this rain that we got here on Thursday. They are seeing big dividends to defensive hybrids and variable rate planting up there in the Rhinebeck area. Swinging down into Illinois in the Grand Ridge area, talked to Jason at Helena. He says harvest is rolling along up there. Beans are in that 70 to 80 bushel range, and guys are pleased with the corn at that 2 to 220 range. Over at Wilmington, Jeff Rabideau says things are just getting started there. Beans are running in the mid-50s to 70 bushel so far, and corn in that 2 to 220 range, but harvest is really just getting started. Go on over to the Donovan, Illinois, and the Illinois-Indiana border. Tim at Donovan Co-op says they're about 40% done with beans, only 10% on the corn. Bean yields that he's been hearing are in that 65 to 75 bushel range, corn in that 210, 230. Tim said lime supplies are tight over there. The Ashcombe quarry is out, making calicitic lime harder to get. So make sure you're talking to them about your fall lime needs sooner than later. We swing clear west to Quincy in the east edge of Missouri with Matt. Matt thinks they're about 30% done on corn and beans both. Corn yields have been ranging from 140 to 240. When I was talking to Matt, he was in the combine, and he said he just had a pass where yields swung from 80 bushel to 280. Beans, he said, swinging from 30 bushel to 85 bushel, depending on how light the soil was. They're fighting some green leaf beans over there. They were almost ripe when they picked up a late rain, causing the beans to put on some green leaves, but no extra pods. So, like a lot of areas, they're testing 9.5 and they're cutting like silage. Matt took out a couple of replant plots in soybeans. Plot was planted April 3rd, didn't come up till after April 20th. Had some tough stands. They left some strips at 55,000. And on May 3rd, they interplanted some blocks at 80,000, and in some of the other blocks, they tore them out, started over. He said the interplant yielded the same as the 55,000 that they left, and their replant beans were about 2 bushel less. Swinging down to the guys at Winchester area, they're a 70 to 80% finish with both corn and beans. This was their first rain delay, and they started in August, so they're glad to see it. Corn yields in that 2 1/4 range, a lot of 75 bushel beans. Moving over in the Lovington area, they're about 50% done on corn, 50% done on corn, 80% done on beans. Corn in that 240 range, with a lot of beans in the 80 bushel range. Looks like tilled beans may be edging out the no-till and strip-till beans in yield. Jump up Tazewell County, Mark at SunAg. He thinks his guys are about 50% done with both corn and beans. Bean yields running in that 70 to 85 plus. Corn yields in the 220, 250 range. Trends showing up in corn. It looks like they're more defensive hybrids are shining this year with the water limitations. He thinks full tillage beans are bumping out the no-till and strip-till beans over there as well. Mark says they're not having a problem getting calcitic lime, but the barge of dolomitic lime is stalled due to lower water levels on the river, so there is some lime delays there. Here locally, harvest is probably more like 30% on beans, 20% on corn. Bean yields in that 65 to 80 bushel range. Corn so far in that 210, 250. Some of those fields that we were talking about in past podcasts that turned too fast due to anthracnose, as we're getting into those now, they did get dinged. Getting reports of some of those areas dipping below 60 bushel in the field. Walking those fields earlier, I was afraid that was going to be the case. Generally speaking, I would say most guys are in that situation where they're 20 to 30 bushel off last year's corn yields, and they're going to be right with or above on the soybean yields as we get further into this harvest. Now, I think 20 to 30 bushel off of last year's yields is still probably pretty strong yields, but I can tell a lot of guys are a little discouraged with that number there. Soybean fungicide trials, we've had from a -1 bushel to a +10, but most of them are in that 2 to 4 bushel range. We'll watch to see how that changes as we take the rest of them out. Call in your testing needs and your fields as they get harvested so we can clean them up. To stay up to date, check out our website at croptechinc.com and subscribe to our podcast, Boots in the Field Report. Keep her safe, keep her moving.